Dr. Kip Thompson, and I'm a clinical community psychologist. I received my BA in psychology from Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, followed by an MA degree in psychology and a PhD in clinical community psychology from the University of South Carolina at Columbia. In psychology, you have to do what's called your predoctoral internship, and that's like a 1-year training opportunity where you do nothing but clinical work. I did mine at the Center for Multicultural Training in Psychology at Boston Medical Center. And then once I graduated and I got hooded, I immediately went into my postdoctoral fellowship, which was the Leadership Education in Adolescent Health Fellowship in the Division of Adolescent and Young Adult Medicine at Boston Children's Hospital, Harvard Medical School. So when I refer to my training, I'm referring to finishing all of that. In this field, one cannot be referred to as a psychologist unless they're licensed. So I got licensed to practice psychology in New York, North Carolina, and Virginia. I'm also a clinical assistant professor in the counseling psychology department at Fordham University at Lincoln Center. In that capacity, I teach graduate level courses and coordinate the clinical training for our doctoral level students. So part of what I love about psychology is that no 2 days will ever be similar for me. So for example, like yesterday, I started my day with a Zoom meeting extracting my students out of a private practice that's not a great fit for them. Then I jumped on a conference call with other training directors in the tri-state area that also like train in psychology. Then after that, I helped my colleagues at Fordham resolve a final grade dispute from some of our students. I ended my day by drafting a roadmap of the discussion section for an article that I'm working on Hurricane Katrina that I'll be submitting to an academic journal soon. Today, I'm working on this video, and afterwards I'll write that up. I'll write that discussion section up I was just referencing and send it to some of my colleagues for review. During the summer, faculty members typically use their time on research and other activities that they're passionate about. In about 2 weeks, I'll start teaching a late afternoon graduate level course in psychopathology for summer school. I imagine I'll start those days prepping for class and grading papers before firing up my laptop to start teaching by around 4:30 p.m. Between what I have going on in my life and my responsibilities to Fordham, I can never really claim being bored. So it's going to sound strange, but I chose this field on impulse. In high school, I was leaning towards becoming a journalist. I really admired the correspondents on MTV News, and I wanted to be like them. During my first freshman orientation at Morehouse, I remember the dean saying that the humanities majors should report to one building and that the STEM majors should report to another building. And I had this feeling that I would have missed out somehow if I did not choose STEM, specifically psychology. The Morehouse Psychology Department was really diverse, really nurturing, and really competent. They reinforced and praised me so much during my time there that by the time I graduated, there was nothing else I wanted to be other than a psychologist. At first, I wanted to be a forensic psychologist, but I eventually got into my clinical community psychology program instead at USC. I have done forensic work with my degree, but my skill set goes beyond that to include other systems besides the legal system like schools, nonprofit organizations, and neighborhoods. So I had one introductory level course in psychology in high school that gave me a good frame for the field, and that was followed up with a really strong curriculum in psychology at Morehouse. The statistics courses there were really helpful, and I didn't pass all of them the first time around, so I had to dig deep to develop that skill set. The coursework in developmental psychology was also helpful because it helped me to think about human differences based on age. I think that's really helpful because if you provide clinical services to whole families, you need to have an understanding of what's happening for everyone: grandparents, parents, adolescents, young children, and you need to have a frame of reference for each group. But no other course prepared me better for my current career than abnormal psychology. A professor made sure to not only provide didactics, but also assigned varied assignments like group debates and role plays to really immerse ourselves into the material and understand it in multidimensional ways. I remember having to act out narcissistic personality disorder, so I channeled my inner Kappa Alpha Psi member and turned up the dial in front of my audience. I got a reaction from my classmates that I still think about to this day. That means that that class was like pivotal. What extracurricular activities did I participate in outside of regular coursework? For example, clubs, internships, and conferences. So I was really involved in extracurricular activities in high school. I participated in debate, student leadership, drama, and Odyssey of the Mind. I also had a job with a local nonprofit organization called Alternatives Incorporated, where they would train me to train community members on different subjects like community empowerment, healthy families, and citizen engagement among elementary school students. That nonprofit organization also had positive youth development groups on ethnic diversity, tobacco prevention, environmental awareness, just to name a few. And I was a part of all the ones that I just named to you. They provided me with my first job helping out tourists in downtown Hampton, Virginia, where I'm from. Extracurriculars were my lifeblood throughout high school. It was so much more interesting than what was happening in the classroom, to be frank. When I got to college, I joined the Morehouse College Senate, and I served that institution for most of my time in school. Typically, like 2 of those 3 years, I was the senator for my dorm, and then the last year, I was the senator for the Research Careers Society. My abnormal psychology professor, Dr. Jan Adams, had a research lab. So I joined that at the start of my sophomore year. This was like a couple of weeks after 9/11. Research became my extracurricular activity and gave me entry to conferences, paper competitions, and research societies. Those interactions were crucial in my development as a researcher and a psychologist. It allowed me to hit the ground running in graduate school. Throughout all of this, I was broke at Morehouse. So I spent a lot of time finding and trying to keep jobs to eat and stay afloat. Some of those conferences I attended actually gave cash prizes for presentations, so I hustled hard, not just to promote my ideas, but also to get easy money. I also had a variety of internships, including the Breakthrough Collaborative, where I taught middle school students in Fort Worth, Texas, Planned Parenthood of Georgia, where I co-facilitated sexual health education workshops. At the high school, actually, we did workshops all the way down to elementary school, leading all the way up to college level. And I also had the UPS Foundation Scholarship, where I mentored elementary school students in various research internships. So when I got to grad school, my extracurricular activities were opportunities still inside the field of psychology, but did not pop up on my transcript. For example, I did forensic evaluations on juvenile male offenders at the Department of Juvenile Justice. I coordinated our department's annual multicultural symposium, and I joined a dialectical behavior therapy consultation team with my peers. My dissertation actually focused on the power of extracurricular activities to help bolster the grade point averages among at-risk youth. That research helped me to conceptualize that it is the extra that we do for ourselves that helps us to get sharper and optimize our situations. How did you maintain focus to study and prepare for your exams and other coursework in your professional school? So, Columbia, South Carolina is not a pop-in location. You do not have to worry about there being too many distractions there. Add to this the fact that I had no family anywhere near South Carolina and that I did not have a ton of friends in my graduate program, made it so that I was even more in my silo trying to get my work done. But most importantly, I really hated being in Columbia. So doing my work meant getting me one step closer to being able to leave on my terms. Once I finished all my training, then I had to prepare for the licensure exam in psychology. This was a couple of years after I finished like all of my internship and predoctoral fellowships and postdoctoral fellowships and all that. Maintaining focus for that licensure exam was much more difficult because by then I was like living with family in places where I did have friends. But again, knowing that completing this next task would mean a better life and more money in my pocket allowed me to fully immerse myself into preparation, knowing that it would only be temporary. So right now, I am in the beginning stages of starting a private practice, hoping to get that launched within the next few months. And I'm going to focus on conducting culturally informed psychological evaluations for children, adolescents, and adults. I would like to start some research projects too while I'm still at Fordham, but I'm still deciding on what psychological problem I would be trying to help solve, because essentially that's what research is, your attempts to solve a social and or psychological problem. Within the next few years, I actually plan to become a journalist, going back to my high school dream, or at least developing that skill set and adding it to my repertoire in psychology. So the first question that I get hit with a lot is, how can I do what you do for a living? Or that's what people ask me. And so what I tell them is that when you get to college, because this path starts definitely in the undergraduate level, when you get to college, or if you're there now, join a research lab, like as soon as possible. Find a professor who is looking for research assistants and volunteer to work for free if they don't have money to pay you. Just get in there. You want to try to find a lab that uses quantitative or mixed methods, because hard data, like numerical data, is king in STEM fields. As soon as you can, you want to create a poster presentation and submit the proposal to a local conference. Work your way up and develop your skill set in statistics so that every research question you pose is more sophisticated than the one that came before. Once you start doing research, you can literally write your own ticket in this field, but you must start with a firm grasp of data analysis and APA-style writing. The second most frequent question I get, or is more of like a statement and a question. The statement is, people will tell me, okay, well, I don't have a great GPA. Can I still become a psychologist? And what I tell them is absolutely. So I was like a C+/B- student all throughout high school and college, but I learned how to compensate. Those extracurricular activities that I was talking about earlier helped tremendously with that. So even if you are about to graduate, or if you just recently graduated, it's still not too late. What you need to do is get a job working as a research assistant or at some organization that relies on research in some way. As long as you're patient and you get mentorship on developing your graduate school application, you can still gain admission to a strong graduate program, and some of them may even come with funding. What I would say is that success is not an overnight process. It takes time and it takes grit. You have to invest in yourself, step outside of your comfort zone, stay humble, and ask for help when you need it. At least those were the things that I did. Hopefully this video has been helpful to the community of people that watch these videos. Feel free to send me an email or contact me if you have any questions. Take care.